What's good, everybody, and welcome to pre-launch preview. As always, I'm your freaking boy, the Charm City champ, and I'm joined by Sergio. What's happening, man?
Hey man, how are you? Thanks for having me back. I'm excited to be on a new show. I feel like I haven't gotten to do this one before. Haven't done a preview in years. I think the last preview I did was actually like a co-op horror game from a while back. I think I was all the way in college, so it's been a while. So I'm definitely happy to be here.
Nice. Yeah, I'm excited for this. This is something we started maybe like a couple of weeks ago. Just whenever we get into a closed or open beta, or wherever we get some sort of preview code, we'll record a gameplay, talk over it, let everybody in on what we seen. And we got a code. This is actually a review code. So what you played, I believe, is the final build for Morkull. I believe I'm pronouncing that right. I pulled the trailer up, and they said it, and I think I'm saying
okay.
said it. Morkull.
Interesting. Yeah.
So let's start it off. Let's rip the Band-Aid.
Mm-hmm.
Because also I wanted to rephrase this as a preview, because I don't know if I want Game Click to full on review stuff, because you slap scores on things and it kind of like belittles.
Yeah, it hinders people from playing games.
Yeah, exactly. So let's just say it like this. Would you recommend Morkull Ragast Rage?
I think I would recommend this game under the most desperate circumstances. What I mean by that is, I think with Morkull Ragast Rage, I think that first of all, with this game being from a Spaniard studio, very, very small. I couldn't find how big the team is, but it seems like this may be Disaster Games' debut even.
Yeah.
And so I think, debuting like this, I think is not a bad start. I think there's a lot to work with here that you can expand on. I think they are definitely wearing their influences on their sleeve. There's a lot of things in here. I think, earlier we were talking about before the show, about Hollow Knight, right? And I think this game, just aesthetically, wants to be Hollow Knight in every capacity. But I don't think it has the same sauce that Hollow Knight has in a lot of aspects. I don't think the combat is as satisfying. I think the main character isn't as memorable, which is ironic, because if you played Hollow Knight, the main character isn't really the most crazy designed character. But I think even in that case, it sticks out a little bit more than Morkull here. So. I also think that the humor threw me off a little bit as well. It tries to break the fourth wall in a lot of instances, and I don't think it connects much there for me. But I do think there's some good stuff here. The parry, I think is definitely something that I always look forward to. Not as satisfying as some other Metroidvania parries that I played, particularly thinking of Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown last year at the top of the year. So I definitely think there are some better options out there. But I think if you need a quick game to throw on the Steam Deck that isn't going to take you too long, is decently, tough, I think you may find something here. I also think that this may be something that is good for somebody that is newer to the genre, versus starting with something like a Hollow Knight that has these deep mechanics and customization options and things like that. This seems like a much more dumbed down, cool math kids version of Hollow Knight is the best way I can put it.
Yeah, this seems very ambitious for a first. So I pulled up Disaster Games. I found them on itch.io, and they've dropped two, smaller games on itch.io. But this is their first game that's going to be on Steam and consoles. This thing is launching day and date on everything: Steam, Switch, PS5, and Series X and S. So very big. And I put a GIF in the in our Discord chat when you say this game breaks the fourth wall, and this is the first thing in the press material. And it's literally,
exactly.
This is very on the nose in regards to
exactly. And I think it's some of that, for me, the humor just doesn't really, it doesn't connect. I think it's very hard to do humor in games these days, right? I think, we aren't in the era anymore of games like Borderlands really pushing the boundaries of what people can think comedy in games can be, and what that looks like when it drives the narrative. And so I think, I don't know if they stick the landing here with it, with the main character itself. It feels very forced. I don't, really think I laughed much at all with any of the dialogue, but I think, there is something here gameplay wise, right? I think they definitely have something in that regard. But yeah, humor wise, when they're breaking the fourth wall stuff, I think it was a little too much for me.
Yeah, this game really, and this is without, I didn't get my hands on the game. You got our only review code, but I can tell the lack of, like, this game really needed some more time in the oven.
Oh, 100%.
Like, it definitely lacks a little bit of polish.
Yes, it definitely does. I think, unfortunately for me, from the moment I loaded in the game and saw even just the fonts they were using and the way the menu was formulated, there's a certain polish that you can just tell that comes with games the moment you load it in, right? You thinking about in pretty much any game we play. I've recently been really playing Avowed lately, right? And not saying that every indie game needs to be in Avowed, right? That's obviously crazy. But even indie games that we played previously, you think of games like Cocoon that did really well. You look at the menu in Balatro, right? All these different games that have such unique looks and feels to them and aesthetics that you can think of when you load those games up. And this one just feels, like I said, it wears its influences on its sleeve, but it feels like a half-baked version of all those influences. And I think that's the biggest thing that's going to hold it back.
Yeah, I totally agree. So I got the press, almost just die. So I got the press release right here. I'm gonna just read a little bit. Morkull Ragast Rage is a 2D video game that combines platforming and action with a touch of exploration. So it's like trying to be a Metroidvania, I'm assuming.
Yep.
You will control Morkull, the villain of the story. Oh, shaking it up. Who knows that he is a character in a video game, the existence of a player who controls him, and of some developers who have created him. Your objective: help Morkull escape from the Ragast so he can rule and carry out his evil plans around the world.
Yeah, and like I said, I feel like that story just doesn't really resonate. They try to tell it fully through humor for the most part. And I think, eventually when you're like 30 minutes in, I was like, okay, I don't think I'm going to care about this character. This dialogue isn't doing it for me. And that says a lot for me. I usually give games, especially narratives, like a big, shot. So, maybe they'll bring it around. But for some reason with this one, I just never, cared enough. I don't think the gameplay or the world itself was interesting enough to carry it without it for me. And I think that was saying a lot.
How much time did you put into this game, would you say?
I put in about 7 hours into this game. So I definitely, gave it its just due. I think within that time, some playthroughs stopped because of breaking glitches. I think I, even recorded one for us in which I got stuck in it's like this septic. I don't even know what to call it. This pink goo that you're not supposed to touch. I really got stuck there and could not move, couldn't pause the game. It was crazy. So definitely, once again, touching on the polished piece, right? Bugs are going to happen. These things happen. But to have a playthrough, come to a close because of a bug, it's definitely something that I think, you want to be cautious of when buying a game like this for sure.
Yeah, to be fair, this is pre-launch that we're playing this, so
yes, absolutely.
Could be a day one patch that comes out that fixes whatever bugs we encounter. But I do think we do need to be transparent about anything that you experience.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm looking at the combat.
Okay.
You got some combos. Did you notice it evolve at all during your time with it?
So I think this game suffers from, previously I've been on one of the shows and we talked about Black Myth Wukong and what wasn't resonating with that combat for me. I think a lot of it was, unfortunately, the animation of doing the same, light attack every single time, right, and building up that meter. This game does that, and, I think downsizes it even more so to where when you're using your light or heavy attack in this game, it is the same animation every time you press the button. He is just swiping his hand. He is punching if you're doing a heavy attack. It's very much formulaic and very simplistic. There's not a lot of enemy variety within it as well, as some of the enemies are there's like weird spikes and where some enemies don't affect you at all. and you can really just breeze past them, and then some will kill you in about 3 hits. So there's, a very weird spike there as well.
Yeah.
One of the things that I really did enjoy, though, was the portion of, like I said, the parry. I talked about the parry earlier. It's not the most satisfying parry ever, but I do like that you can do it midair. You can, parry projectiles, and it really helps you out with some of the bad enemy types that they have in the game.
Yeah.
They shoot projectiles at you, so it's really, really cool. Just some complaints I had about the combat, I guess, is one of the things, thinking about the skill tree. It really felt like the skill tree in a lot of parts had abilities that I felt like I should have had from the beginning. One of the first abilities you can buy is a double light attack, where you're just able to basically do a simple combo. And there's another one that is, a strong attack combo, where you're just repeatedly pressing the same button as you would any other action game. I don't have to do that in, games like Hollow Knight, right? So it feels like if you're going to bring that comparison to Hollow Knight and say this is a homage to that, to me, I feel like, we should have, gotten a little bit more creative with the abilities that are within the skill tree itself. Things like, I think one of the last ones I bought when playing the game was the ability to see my enemy's health bar, right? That's an accessibility setting in a lot of games these days, right? Something that's built in.
Yeah.
And so when I saw that it cost, X amount of souls is what they call them in this game, I was like, oh, wow, like this, feels like I said, we could have got a little bit more creative with the abilities within the skill tree.
Yeah.
Another thing that really bugged me, I think, just along the lines of the combat, is the lack of checkpoints in this game. I think there's some very grueling areas, and not in a bad way. I love that challenge. I love, when the developers aren't afraid to make their games tough, right? Especially platformers. I think the biggest thing for me, though, here is, the lack of checkpoints themselves made the game almost unbearable, right? When you're running into glitches, you're running into, things that are happening and you're dying, because of the game itself. You start to lose that motivation to go back and retrace your same footsteps when everything looks the same, and there's not a lot of enemy variety, and there's not a lot of variety with the combat. So I found myself a lot of times having to make these super long tracks back to these areas of the map, not finding what I'm looking for a while. I run into an enemy that's, pretty beefy, and I end up dying and having to restart all over again. I just think there's better checkpoint systems in different Metroidvanias I've played, and I think the system is good itself. I think it's very reminiscent of the Soul genre. You can upgrade your skill tree. You can talk to your companion, who is helping you along this journey, at them as well as teleport to a different one. So definitely reminiscent and familiar feel with what they do. But I wish there were more around the map for sure. But I think, like I said, I think the biggest thing with the combat is that it gives me the Vladimir Wukong effect, where, like I said, it really is just very formulaic. It's very simplistic. It doesn't have anything that makes me go, oh wow, this is Morkull's thing. This is a part of the combat that's really making me really gravitate towards this game. Or even the things that it does that other games do, like a parry system, right? The parry isn't special enough to really make it stand out or anything, which goes back to our main point of discussion, right? Is I think this game really wears its influences on its sleeve, but I don't think it excels in any of the things that it tries to do.
Yeah, that's very disappointing, because like the its clear inspiration, Hollow Knight. One of the things that made Hollow Knight cool is that you're playing as this very small character, and throughout the game you can literally see and feel him getting stronger.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, like you can see, like, you're raising your defense, or you're taking more hits. You're adding more hits to your combos. You're adding more, spells and attacks. And so you're saying with the skill tree, you weren't seeing any of that, or anything?
No, I wasn't seeing anything that just really made me go, oh wow, this would be a cool ability to add. Like I said, I got the most excited to be able to see health bars, at the top of my enemies. I think there were some, things in there where, the combos would change up, and maybe there would be a different animation. But for instance, when I bought the first upgrade for my light attack combo, it was a simple, it was the same swipe that was in the original combo before I bought it, and then it just brought down a second swipe that was a very similar animation. There's a option to upgrade it one more time and have another animation that goes through, but once again, it's very samey, right? Very formulaic. It just feels like, maybe I should just have these, light combos, or these combos for my character, right? And we get more creative with the actual abilities within the skill tree. 'Cause I think within a game like this, and I think most games these days, right, when it comes to people wanting to really dive into these worlds and be immersed and really build a character in the way that they want, you can't really afford to miss on that part, right? There's so much of the progression and the satisfaction that people get from, like you said, like games like Hollow Knight is seeing my character become stronger and being able to shape them in the way that I want for my gameplay style, or just, based on the difficulty and the obstacle that's ahead of me. And I didn't really get that here. It felt like I could go through this entire game really without touching my skill tree, and really being able to do it on my own.
So another thing that I think is important that we touch on, especially with it being a Metroidvania, is the exploration and the worlds and biomes that you're visiting. From what you've seen, did you see like a variation in environments? Did you? Is this world fun to explore? Is what I'm getting at.
So I will say that everything that I got to see within my hours of play seemed pretty samey to me. There are you're gonna progress through this dungeon. It seems this world. There's gonna be more obstacles like spikes, like rolling balls that may hit you as well as you progress. And so there's different obstacles that do come your way. But in terms of the aesthetic of the actual game, everything looks very much samey. I didn't really, see anything that made me, wow in any case. I also think that, once again, you going back to its influences, I think, Hollow Knight just does the dark gothic look so much better, right? It really makes you feel like you're in that world versus, like I said, this one. I also think that the mapping doesn't help it. The map system in the game is not the best. It's tough to follow in terms of knowing where you are elevation-wise with how they have it. And I even ran into some glitches in the game that hopefully will be, passed on day one, like we said, where, I would teleport to a different part of the map through the checkpoint system, and my map wouldn't update, and my character would be stuck within a certain portion of the map, so I couldn't even track where I was anymore. So different, things like that make it a little tough to enjoy the exploration aspect. I think so much of the exploration is, being able to feel rewarded when you're exploring, and finding different items and upgrades and things like that. But there's some of that here, definitely not as much as I would like. There's some you can, upgrade and get more heals for yourself. There are totems in which you can just regain your health on the fly as well. So they have a little bit of that here. But, by most of the time, if you're going out of your way to explore every nook and cranny like me, the sickos that play these games, you're not really going to come out of it, satisfied most of the time, I would say, with how much you're exploring.
Alfred? Why is this man named Alfred? Alfred is the friend?
Exactly. Yes, exactly. And even their back and forth is never the best.
I pulled up How Long to Beat for Morkull. Only one person's on it, which, makes sense because I guess this is not out yet. This guy claims he beat it in 4.5 hours.
Okay.
He must have speed ran it.
I can see that. There's definitely some parts, and I think once again that goes to the mapping portion, right? I spent a lot of time, backtracking, the lack of checkpoints, right? Me having to, rerun these same routes. There's some tanky enemies in here, some that will really gang up on you if you're not careful. And like I said, the game doesn't really do too good of a job at pathing or letting you know where you should be going, what you should be focusing on, which, with these games especially, right, in this day and age of the Steam Deck gamer, right, I did play a little bit of this on my, Steam Deck, and I remember at a certain point coming back to it and not even remembering where I was, right, like I came back to it and I was like, oh, I don't know what my objective is, where I'm going, the game doesn't really help you in any regard there. And it's really tough to pick back up and get into after a quick session.
I was about to ask, how did you feel it ran on you? 'Cause you played on Steam Deck and PC?
Yes, I played on both.
Okay.
I think, this game isn't, miraculous enough to where it's going to run badly on your Steam Deck. You're still going to run into some of the same glitches. You may run into some control glitches here and there as well. But I think it definitely ran just fine on my Steam Deck. I think this is a great Steam Deck game. You catch it on sale, and you've already played through Hollow Knight. Maybe you're waiting for Silk Song or something else. I think it's a great game for that. Still, other Metroidvanias I think I would recommend ahead of this, of course, right?
Sure.
But I think this is a perfect game for the Steam Deck, and why the Steam Deck, I think, is a perfect example of why indies are thriving on that platform.
Yeah. This section does not look fun.
No, not at all. I died multiple times, and once again, right, it's like getting through this part and then having to go back to the same checkpoint over and over, and not having that natural progression just doesn't feel good. Not even in a way of like, oh, this is too hard. It just doesn't feel good to progress.
And that's the thing with a game that's trying to be, a Hollow Knight or a Souls-like, or things of that nature.
Yeah,
it's cool to die a lot when you can attribute it to you, when you feels like it's your fault.
100%.
And that just looked like bad level design right there.
Yeah, pretty rough, man. Pretty rough.
Explain to me. So the green is obviously health. The purple, I'm assuming, is like magic or whatever. Like what is depleting the purple bar?
So I promise you, to this day, I do not know what that purple meter does. I saw sometimes it like decreased, but for the most part, I don't remember ever using anything. I never got anything in regards to like magic per se, to be able to use. So I'm not entirely sure. That could have been something that I just missed due to tutorialization. But I really only use the green meter, which is your health. And then you see below that, there's like a green thing that has a ball in it. Those are your heals that you have available. Eventually, I was able to get two, but the one itself doesn't really heal you too much. So, and like I said, your health is not like, this isn't a tanky or beefy character. You will definitely take some hits and some deaths quick if you get overwhelmed. So
yeah, notice that. We're gonna get to a part where I did skip forward to the second part of the gameplay you sent, where it looks like you were kind of getting more into the action and the combat.
Yep.
This little arena part. Let me.
Yeah, it definitely reminded me of some other games that have come out recently.
But yeah, this reminds me of there are a lot of Metroidvanias that do this. Most recently, Tales of Gonzara Zao. I know they do this a lot.
Yeah.
Where you just get to a part, shut you in the room, a bunch of enemies pop out.
Yep.
You dealt with that pretty quick.
Yeah, I think, unfortunately, once again, though, it's just a matter of the enemy variety, right? Like finding these same bats, these same creatures that are walking on the ground. Right there, you see like the parry in the block doesn't even block all three of the things that they shoot out. So a lot of times you still take damage there. It's just, it's the small things that I think, like you said, I just think with more time, right?
Yeah.
More time, more variety. But once again, I'm coming from the same checkpoint, fighting the same enemies, and it's just, same checkpoint. It still haven't, found another one. And you look at how much of the map, I have uncovered at that point. It feels like there should be more, right? The world just feels empty and samey. And I think that, hinders it. I think, you could get away with less checkpoints if the world was, I think, more appealing.
Yeah.
But I think if your world lacks that character and that personality, I think people are less likely to stick around for a game like this if they get frustrated.
Let's talk about something good. I don't want to feel like, I don't
Absolutely.
I don't want to trounce on the game. What do you like about Morkull?
I really love the movement. I think the movement feels like it's at a good pace for a Metroidvania. I think with the dash that it has, you are able to maneuver in a very swift way, but also the game doesn't feel too quick or inaccessible for people that may be new to the genre. I also think there is a beauty in the simplicity that this game brings, in comparison to some of its predecessors in that, like I said before, if I'm more hesitant to put somebody onto a game with deep upgrades and mechanics and systems like that, this is a very bare bones Metroidvania that I think anybody can really pick up and really play at any point. I also think that like I said, the combat isn't the best by any means, but I think there are signs there that with time, and if they, end up getting another, crack at this, they can make something really, really special. I think that, they have the formula for it, and they obviously have studied enough of other games in this genre to know what people want. I just think it's the actual execution that just fell a little bit flat. So, but I do think there's plenty here to like, absolutely.
It made you do the arena over again?
Yes, you have to do the arenas over again after you die, I'm pretty sure. Especially if you come back for a second playthrough as well. All the enemies will come back. So kind of Souls-like in that way, I guess. And like I said, as you can see, it definitely gets, the deeper you get into it, more enemies, more overwhelming. But nothing really changes. It's all the same attacks, same enemies, really. Yeah, it's
God, that
a
was
little more
brutal.
variety definitely would have helped.
I felt that for you. That, jeez. I would have turned the game off right there.
I was close. I had to push this.
This kind of breaks my heart because I feel like if they would have had like some QA from somebody external, it's hard to QA when
It is.
you're a part of the project. You know what I'm saying? I feel like if we would have touched this early enough and been like, hey, you're almost there. You just fix X, Y, and Z. But yeah, I totally, from even looking at this gameplay, I could see everything you're saying is justified. This is just, man, it really stinks to see something that it's just so close to at least nailing what the devs were trying to get at. Because all the things that I look for in a Metroidvania, it feels like it's there, like the very small details, clinging to the walls. Is there a double jump?
No, there is no double jump.
No!
Yeah, there's no double jump. That is one of my big complaints too. It definitely felt like the game would have benefited from a double jump, just maneuverability wise. You definitely can get around without it, but like you said, I think it just adds a little something to it that I think helped me in the long run with it. But no, you do not have a double jump in the game.
Did you ever unlock another checkpoint?
I believe I did. I unlocked one in the bottom right of the map eventually that I teleported to a few times. And that definitely helped, but it wasn't until after I found like a secret key or something like that. And really and truly one of the reasons why it took me this long is once again the elevation and the way they display it. I believe, on the map itself, it's very tough to see and sort of see where you are and where you need to be going next. There's one of the totems, like we said, where you can, regain your health. And then, yeah, like these enemies right here, these guys are tough, man. Like, that's half my health right there.
Yeah, I'm about to say
It was gone.
Jesus.
Yeah, and there's no, the parry isn't quick enough to really stop it. The game gets tough. The game gets tough. And like I said, unfortunately, you're in a position where you're, at this point, I still don't think I have that third checkpoint. And so I'm having to just, spawn back at this totem every single time. You're losing half of your souls or your, things that you gain to use your abilities and up your skill tree at this point. So I'm just, burning time, burning mental health at this point, getting through the game. But no, I definitely think that's the biggest piece is if that natural progression felt a little bit better, I would have been able to put up with some more of the the gripes that I have with the game, but that natural progression not being there, or even if I'm thinking about something like Dead Cells, for instance, where that combat just feels so fluid and natural, and feel like I have so much control. There's a lot you could put up with there, right? But I think this doesn't have enough saving it to put up with some of the faults it has.
So you mentioned losing your souls every time you die, like half your souls.
Yep.
When you pick them up,
No, you cannot pick them up. You lose half every time, and that is it. You get souls obviously for killing each enemy. I would say you get close to maybe 50 to 100, depending on who you're killing at the time. And within that, with those souls, there are different souls collectibles that you can pick up and find. I also found a balloon collectible. Not sure what that was. So it seems like they are at least going there with the collectible aspect and trying to do a little bit there. I really do like being able to find the extra health flask just in the environment through exploring. I think that was a good touch as well. So the collectible aspect, I will say, is another positive. I think they're moving in the right direction that way. I just wish there was more, and that the world felt a little bit more full and rewarding to explore as a whole.
Man, that is disheartening. I looked through the gameplay you shot me over. I don't think I found a boss battle. Did you? Is there any traditional bosses or?
I believe when I first started the game, there may have been a mini boss fight that was okay, but it felt very tutorialized at the beginning, so I didn't take it too seriously. I think I may have been just on the cusp of an upcoming boss fight, which I was excited to see, but also a little bit worried because, like I said, once again, fighting these things here, I was like, man, I don't know if I even enjoy fighting. I don't know if I enjoy fighting that.
These bears beating your ass.
Like the amount of time they give you, with the warning for the parry. I've seen Souls games that give me more time to react in that way. It just didn't even seem accessible at that point, in any capacity. So, that aspect, I was excited to see sort of what they would do from a design standpoint with the boss fights for sure. But at no point did the, combat make me feel like it was something I was longing for, was to, use these abilities that I've, curated for myself to, how am I going to, combo this with this boss fight, or, maybe this attribute I should focus on, make it, easier on me this time. I never got that from this, and it never excited me to, get to a boss fight. I just was more so curious, I guess, as to what they would do from a design standpoint.
I keep trying to fish for compliments, and it keeps leading us down.
I know. I don't want to be a negative person.
I know.
Like I said, I do think mixed in here, there is a great game. But I think, with the size of the studio they have and the time in which they're trying to put it out, I think if you delayed this game until the end of the year, get some QA people in there, right? I think you have a really good game. But this very much feels like an alpha build. It feels like there are some very underbaked ideas here that, it could have been stressed out and fleshed out a little bit more.
Yeah, and that's the difficulty with doing this. Like, I really didn't want to go into this and discourage a smaller team, but you really got to. It's our responsibility.
100%. We have to be honest.
Gotta be honest.
Absolutely.
What is happening here? Yeah, I don't know.
I'm doing a little bit more exploring. I ended up getting into another, combat scenario here. I think I saw that guy spawn at the bottom, and I was like,
oh no.
This guy. Yeah, but here we go. Let me see if I can, make something happen this time.
That window
and I can't
dodge. That window to dodge.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. And once again, I'm still at the same checkpoint. You see, I'm spotted at the same checkpoint. Same route, same enemies every single time, and it just doesn't. And granted, most Metroidvanias, that is the same thing, and I guess I can't put a finger on it as to why in this game it feels so much more apparent. I mean, I think a lot of it, like I said, has to do with just the world isn't captivating, the enemies aren't captivating, the combat is very formulaic. Nothing just stands out and makes you go, wow, I want to play more of this, right? I never, logged on, when I saw Marvel Rivals staring at me, I never said, oh man, I really want to play, more Morkull instead. And that, I think is telling. Just out of curiosity, I wasn't even curious, whenever, it came down to playing and exploring the world more. So, and I think, like I said, if you're wearing Hollow Knight as the ace up your sleeve, right, and your biggest inspiration, I feel like the world itself is so important and what you probably needed to hit on the most here outside of the gameplay. But it just felt very, very generic for me.
Yeah, the world building and the lore. so important to if you're saying you're inspired by Hollow Knight, you got to nail those two things.
Absolutely. Yep.
And I'm not seeing that here. Oh no, the bear back. Damn bear.
Yeah, these were my worst. Honestly, you could have told me these were the boss fights, and I would have been like, oh, okay, that makes perfect sense.
How do you where do you got to go to open up the upgrade tree?
So you go to the statues themselves, or the checkpoints, and like I said, in there, very much like a Souls-like menu. If you ever been, say, Elden Ring, in this case, we'll say Lost Grace. You sit down. That is where you can use all of your points. I don't know if the enemies spawn back up. I think in some cases they were, and then some, like the action combat scenarios where they close you in, I think I didn't have to do those in some cases. Also could have just been the game and the inconsistencies, but I definitely think that I was being able to go in that direction with it, and it still didn't feel, like I said, like I had the most freedom ever in that regard with that aspect of the game, but I don't think it was something that hindered my experience too much.
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate because also we're in an age where Metroidvanias are like banging.
They're popping.
They're popping. Animal
sure.
Well, Prince of Persia.
Yes, and oh my gosh, I completely forgot Animal Well. I think it's such a perfect contrast to this game, and that when you play Animal Well, right, the world that they put you in and the way they utilize the mechanics in the game, right, that game makes you want to explore more and learn more about the world and how you can utilize the systems that they give you within the game. And I think this game doesn't really have that, and is kind of what I think can hinder that experience a little bit. It goes back to, once again, talking about just the replayability and wanting to come back to it, which for these games is so important, right? There is so much, I need to go back to this area and unlock this with this new ability I have. I never got that from here. I never got that I could come back at any point and get a collectible or level up myself to, go back to this area and get this really cool weapon or ability or item. And I feel like that's such an important aspect to this genre that you cannot afford to miss on, especially as a new a new developer to the game and wanting to, make that stamp. You have to have something that, makes people know that this is Morkull. This is a Hollow Knight, inspired game, but this is still our game, our baby, and this is the identity that we have with it.
And that's the thing, bringing up Animal Well. We started this off, saying, it's a small team. You can't really be too hard on it. Animal Well was made by one guy.
That's true. That's very, very true. Absolutely.
And that thing was like insanely polished.
Absolutely true.
So yeah, I mean, this is what it is. Morkull, like, it has some. I can see the potential. This is like being on one of those like balloon pop things.
Yeah, I think for a major platform, like you said, this is going straight to all consoles, PC day one. I think for a major platform debut, this is a solid start. I think there's obviously a lot of room to grow, but I hope they take feedback from the people that do play this game. It really takes some time on their next project, because I do think that this studio, can potentially have this stuff. Like I said, at the very least, I can tell that they're students. Like, they're students of the game. They know their games. They know, what influences they want to use within it. But I think within that, you have to have a balance and really create your own identity with your characters and with your world. And I hope that's what they focus on, on this next iteration or whatever project they have that goes next.
Yeah. So yeah, if we didn't discourage you from it, you want to try Morkull, you're more than welcome to. This game drops March 6th on.
Yes, this week, same day as Split Fiction.
Oh no.
Yeah, I know. Yes, but it does drop this week though. And like I said, definitely give the game a shot if you have never played a Metroidvania before and may be scared of, the advancement of some of like the abilities and mechanics and customizations. And you just want a bare bones, Metroidvania action platformer. give this game a shot. I think there are some things that people may find in beauty and the simplicity of it. And like I said, I think it's definitely a great Steam Deck game as well. If you need something to play on the go, if you're a big work traveler like I am, games like this are very much appreciated on that platform. So give it a shot. Definitely do not let me discourage you. I think there's definitely some good stuff here, and I hope our friends at Disaster in Spain, I hope they definitely take some of the feedback, and I'm excited to see what they do next.
Yeah. Morkull Ragast Rage, Steam, PS5, Series X and S, and Switch. Sergio says give it a try. I did not touch it. I say,
don't try to put that on me. So I did not touch it. I say, hey man, look, like I said, I had a great time. I've once, and like I said, that's also why I preface every time preview or something comes out. I like doing the research on the studio and seeing who they are, and so like I said, I think it was just cool to be able to play a game made by a Spaniard studio. You don't get to do that often, so I'm just very appreciative. And thankful that you all let us take part in your art, right, and get to experience it.
For sure. And it's tough, man. It's tough in a day and age now because back when I first started playing games were legit. They were legit bad games. Like, they were legit broken ass games that had no business being in the public. Superman 64, freaking 70% of the NES library. And so in a day and age where games normally don't get into the public eye in a rough form, when it does, it stands out. Sergio, where can they find you if they want?
You can find me anywhere. Particularly these days, I'm hanging out on the Blue Sky app, so you can find me at I'm Physics, IMPHYSIX on Blue Sky. Also on Instagram at Sergio, SIR.G.OOH. And you can find me on both of those platforms. I post pretty frequently on there, and I stream occasionally there on Twitch at the same app as well. So definitely, feel free to find me. I love talking games. Give me your recs. Always much appreciated.
You heard that, Disaster Games. That's where you find them. Yeah. So yeah, let's figure that out. You can find GameClick at Real GameClick on most social media platforms. We're on Twitter, we're on Blue Sky, we're on Threads, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. You know that because you're here already. Make sure to hit the like, share, and subscribe button and hit the bell so you don't miss any of our other content. We do a podcast every other Friday, along with pre-launch preview and other in real life videos. I've been your boy, the Charm City Champ, with Sergio, and we're out.
Peace.